For the U.S. military. May 6, 2020 by Anna von Reitz. I have been asked to write articles for our veterans and our current-day military so that they can better understand the history and the verbiage and what has actually gone on in this country since the so-called Civil War, because all of this has bearing on them and their role and what is happening now. My first stab at this was the 6-page Quick Start Guide released and posted last week at www.annavonreitz.com and at www.theamericanstatesassembly.net. If you are new to these subjects, start there, and also look at the one-page graphic depiction of the actual structure of the government, and the one-page description of the five political status options that Americans can choose or by default, wind up in. This covers all the basics, but does not delve into the specific history of the military in all of this. All we have to go on in that respect are anecdotal primary sources, eyewitness accounts written at the time, such as the autobiographies of Ulysses S. Grant and Jefferson Davis, diarist entries, periodical publications, and, of course, the Congressional Record and Congressional Register and executive orders, beginning with Abraham Lincoln's General Order 100, in 1863. What appears in retrospect is picture of utter chaos and confusion, exacerbated by a great deal of purposeful, and some, perhaps, accidental, semantic deceit. The issue of slavery was still hotly contested, and as an institution, it was preserved in a backhanded fashion by skillful wordsmithing of the 13th and 14th by law amendments passed by the Rump Congresses. The trick was that they abolished private slave ownership, and substituted public slave ownership instead. They also declared that criminals were slaves by definition. None of this had any effect on Americans owed the protections and guarantees of the actual constitutions, but it had immediate impact on the operations of the federal subcontractors and on federal employees in general. For one, it meant that municipal citizens of the United States could be preyed upon and deprived of any and all rights and considerations. These conditions prevailed for 100 years, until the civil rights movement succeeded in establishing equal civil rights, albeit, as we have just seen demonstrated, civil rights are privileges, and can be suspended. All this talk about the constitutions being suspended, for federal citizens, yes, they can be, and apparently now are, in honor of the fake coronavirus pandemic. But for actual Americans, the constitutions remain in full force. This is one painful demonstration of how we have been living with double and triple standards in this country for a long, long time, all as a result of confusion and mismanagement and usurpation that took place in the wake of the Civil War. Just as slavery and its continuance in the public sector was the key issue coming out of that great conflict, the confusion between the civil and the civilian government was the other primary mind-buster for most people at the time. In common parlance, the word civil, as in civil government, typically indicates the federal civil service and its activities, but in a more technical sense, it refers to any function of the municipal United States or, alternatively, any retained civil function of the United States of America. The functions of the post office are the most accessible example. The United States of America has its own post office run in tandem with the U.S. Postal Service, while the U.S. Postal Service runs side by side with the municipal USPS. One post office, two postal services, and last time I counted, seven different hats for the United States Postmaster to wear, including international and global offices. All of these can be and are called civil government activities, but which civil government becomes the question. You will all notice that since the delegated powers of the Confederation returned to the United States of America, we fly the United States civil flag and maintain the United States Post Office. There is a separate contract with the Universal Postal Union allowing this, and it does not imply that we are in any general sense subject to municipal authority, even though we administer civil government functions on our land and soil and within the context of our retained Amendment X powers. We fly the peacetime flag, the United States civil flag, at our post office locations, which is appropriate because the actual government of this country has not been at war since 1814. This is a perfectly legitimate federal flag and we, the United States of America, are fully empowered to fly it. That said, you will notice that the Title IV war flag flies at all U.S. post offices, and all USPS service centers. And absolutely none of these civil government functions, exercised by any international or global power, have anything whatsoever to do with the actual civilian government of this country, aside from our obligation to faithfully serve the states and the people. Civil is not civilian in the same way that a state of state is not a state. If you are in the U.S. military, you are supposed to be obeying and taking your orders from the civilian government of this country, not the civil government. This confusion is at the root of much of the malaise which has afflicted this country, and the rest of the world, for 15 decades. The military has been looking to the wrong parties for direction. It has been taking orders from the foreign municipal subcontractor doing business in the name of the Union, the civil government, instead of the United States of America, the unincorporated Federation of States, which is the lawful international instrumentality of the civilian government. The actual civilian government of the people, for the people, and by the people is called into session, and otherwise doesn't operate. It has been called into session by the United States of America and member states of the Union, and is now active in all 50 states and compact state territories. What you all need to know as officers and service members is that your obligation and duty of service is owed to this government, first and foremost, and that your performance under contract is dictated by the constitutions. When the United States of America undertakes the duties it originally assigned to the States of America Confederation, it exercises, albeit in original issuer capacity, all those rights and duties and abides by the terms of these venerable agreements. In turn, you owe your obligation to the constitutional agreements, and your loyalty to the American states and people. Now that the actual American government is in session, your status is that of subcontractors operating directly under the auspices of the United States of America, the civilian government, whether or not it stoops to make up for the incompetence of its assigns and also perform some civil government functions. There is no emergency. You, like many other Americans, are coming out of a long period of confusion and deceit. The municipal corporations that have been established in violation of the Constitution of the United States are being folded and other long-standing mischief is being corrected. What lies ahead is, hopefully, a peaceful transition and a new era. You are being called to your duty to the United States of America, the unincorporated Federation of American States, not a foreign interloper operating as a private, for-profit governmental services corporation, doing business in our names. This is the civilian government talking to you, for the first time in 150 years. Links to Anna's articles and resources can be found in the video description box.